Good morning, everybody. How is everybody doing this? Chosen undead. Being an authoritarian regime. You know that's not my. I'm very much not a authoritarian type of person. What was this planned prank? Is anyone joining me on Discord? Okay, I see 2 people have joined me on Discord. Anyone else join me on Discord? Excuse me. Yeah. There we go. I have destroyed the dictator. Dolls. Okay. This is what we should do to people abusing power. Just take away their power. Their power was given to them by the people. And we should take away their power when they started. Okay. So, what we're going to do, I see only 7 of you are here, and I don't know where the rest of you are, but we're just going to continue. Today we are looking at paper 2. I am quite sure we didn't do paper 2 last week, right? I did do paper 2 with other students of mine, but I do not believe it was a live stream. Can anyone confirm or deny the existence of paper 2 live stream? Okay.
Well, the last live stream was Thursday.
Okay.
I believe. Or
Yeah,
Friday, I can't remember.
It was on Thursday, but we didn't do paper 2, right?
No, we didn't. We didn't do paper 2. I don't think so.
The existence of paper 2. I think paper 2 ever existed.
Nothing paper 2 ever existed. Like, it was a dream. It was a fever dream. Okay. I'm about to send you a link. I'm just sending it straight from this website. Should be able to get there. I'm also sending it on the Discord chat. But
Oh yeah, so I forgot to tell you, but my Windows crashed and I had to reinstall Windows. So everything is like done.
Everything is like done? What do you mean everything is done?
Like I had to
His
reinstall
files are
Windows.
corrupted, or he doesn't have the files for the documents.
Yeah, so like
But you've still got them on Google Classroom.
yeah, I need to like log into everything again.
Cool. Okay, we'll open this paper. I'm going to give you a sec to open this paper, and then we're going to talk about it. Okay. So, I'm going to give you literally 1 second. 1. Okay. So paper 2 is divided into 2 sections. We've got section A, which is our shorter writing and reflective commentary, and section B is about extended writing. Now, I want to point out to you, so yesterday I spent a great deal of time marking people's paper 2s. And, oh, my word. Okay. Question 1A, what people generally did right. So the specific paper we were looking at, I just need to, you hear this noise in my room. This like, they've got the zoomies. Can you guys please go have the zoomies out of my room? Go, Benji. Go, baby. Okay, go, Nicole, Susu. Easy, baby, because you're chill.
I'm going to mute my mic as well because I live on a farm, so we're busy building our roads because there's a lot of potholes. So considering that it's a farm road, the municipality doesn't really, fix it. So I'm going to keep my mic muted so that I don't disturb anyone.
Okay. So yesterday in the marking, what I noticed in question 1A is that, so what the requirement was to write, some of you might have done this past paper, but the requirement was to write a diary entry about going to a music concert, and you were supposed to create focus on atmosphere and excitement. One person, literally the only thing they did to show excitement, was use 2 exclamation marks throughout their piece. Yeah, okay. Another person wrote the diary entry almost as if it was like a blog post. And those who didn't really achieve the purpose they were really very much focused on, or they really weren't focused on anything. They didn't focus on any aspect. They just told me about the events. They didn't explore on a personal level what the event was like, how it affected them, how they personally felt, what was most exciting to them. They also didn't even mention a band's name. They used no specifics. There was one person who gave too much detail. Too much detail in a diary entry might be something like saying, I went to my best friend's house. Her name is Sarah. Okay? If it is your diary, we're going to assume that there's some kind of understanding already established of who Sarah is, who your best friend is. So, if you really want to mention that Sarah is your best friend, you could say something like, after that, I went to Sarah's house. I can't believe we've been best friends for 8 years. And that creates a it almost like it shows that you understand that a diary entry is not like a letter to someone you don't know. A diary entry, you're writing to your diary who knows you. You're writing, you're going to be the one who's reading your diary. But many people personify their diary. I don't know. Yeah. Many people personify their diary and create some kind of like I will answer your question now, Steph. Many people lose marks by writing just not quite in the correct format. And then in terms of your reflective commentaries, some of them were good, but a lot of them were quite weak. And when I say weak, I mean like average marks, like just general marks. So for our reflective commentary, we need to be actually reflecting on what we're writing. We need to be talking about why we wrote it, what effect it had to write it in that way. How did this relate to the purpose of the task? So your reflective commentary is not necessarily an analysis of what you wrote based on your interpretation of the task. It is, I don't know how to say this. It's like an analysis of what you wrote based on what was actually asked for. So you're going to say, okay, the task asked for this. So the task asked me to speak to this audience. I spoke to this audience in this way, this way, this way. I used language in this way. It created this effect, which connected with the audience in this way and furthered the purpose of the piece. And you're connecting it to the instructions. Now, your instructions are not just this part here. Your instructions are this part over here and this part over here. Okay. Next thing I want to mention. Okay, so let's quickly answer that question. Did I lose marks due to writing about an aquarium instead of a museum? I mean, I would have been probably more lenient if you had written about an aquarium throughout, but you start off speaking about a museum and then move on to talking about an aquarium, which shows a lack of focus, and it kind of like it changes throughout. Whatever you write about the same thing. Go through the whole thing. Don't change what you're saying. Stick to what you're saying. But yeah, like in the rubric, it talks about the requirements of the task, whether you oh no, that's awful. So in the rubric, it talks about whether you have achieved whether you have achieved the purpose of the task, and a lot of you didn't. And you'll see, I even so section B, I usually get someone to moderate it. That's why section B questions, those types of questions, they usually take longer to mark, because I look at them, I give like a mark, and then I give them to someone else who is really good at marking these types of things, and she gives a mark, and then we decide on a mark. So yes, okay. So without further ado, let's look at this specific paper. How are we going to address this specific paper? If you guys have any other questions on that, we will be having not a live stream, a normal lesson tomorrow for you to ask that, or you can message me. Prefer it if we do it in a group setting. Okay. You have just read a newspaper article which said it would be better if everyone in the world spoke the same language. You disagree and decide to write an email to the editor of the newspaper about this. Okay, let's quickly create our Google Doc. We're going to use a Google Doc to do this because it's going to just make things a little bit easier. This is not because I'm some huge Google proponent, because I am not. It is.
You're not into dictatorships, as we saw earlier on.
Yeah. Not into dictatorships, not into oligarchies. Not my vibe. Okay, so I'm gonna put this side by side, and although, like, literally, you guys know I'd completely shifted to Linux, and then, like, I was missing, I'd completely shifted to Linux, but it was sometimes crashing, and I needed it for lessons, and then, and my Discord didn't have the same features. And then I came back to Windows because it's allowed me to do this thing, which I was able to do in Linux, in my distribution that I was using on Linux. So, yeah, it's a great feature. Okay, so, yeah. What are you asking?
Well, Linux is pure programming.
By the way, I use it much, guys.
You use what?
No, I'm just kidding. It's a joke.
Okay. You've just read a newspaper article which said it would be better if everyone in the world spoke the same language. You disagree and decide to write an email to the editor of the newspaper about this. Okay. So usually we have a letter to the editor. That's something we're used to, right? Now, this one is an email to the editor. Okay, what are our differences? What key differences do you know of?
Well, we don't need to list the address anymore. Now we just need to list the Gmail. Like the guy at gmail.com.
Okay, so we're going to start with our address. So we're going to start with a from. So this, I don't know how essential this is. I just think, like, this shows that you have understood the assignment, that you know that it is an email and not a letter. Okay? And I like the fact that they're modernizing these things. Okay? So we've got from and to, and we're going to put our email address. You can make this up, and you're going to put their email. Okay. Then from there, what are we going to do then?
I forgot the structure of an email.
Guys, come on.
I don't text
They're hating.
Gmail.
They're hating.
Okay, so we want an eye-catching and pattern-interruptive subject line to grab attention, okay? Let's just quickly, before we move on to that, I just want to look at this question. Write the text for your email using no more than 400 words in your writing. Give reasons to support your opinion. So I just want to look at this. Give reasons to support your opinion. Okay. So we have 400 words. Is it safe to say we might use 50 words for the introduction, 50 words for the conclusion, and then we've got 300 words for the body of our essay, for the body of
Absolutely
our... Pardon?
I don't think so.
Why?
Well, because we're limited to 400 words, so we have to get our points across quickly.
Okay, but it's a letter, and it's an email to the editor, so it definitely has to have a good body, a good introduction and a good conclusion, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm proposing that we have in our introduction, we use 50 words, which gives like a nice background of what we're saying. And in our conclusion, we are making some kind of call to action. We are kind of making it clear what our expectation is. Like, what do we hope to achieve by this lecture? You know what I mean? So you said absolutely not. So why did you say?
So, I mean, sorry, the better way to say it is, I think that in the introduction, I agree with your point, but like in the introduction, you introduce who you are and what you do, because the guy who's reading it doesn't know who you are. Because,
Yes.
I mean, if I read the top, there's not enough information to say like you are also a newspaper editor. Or
Yeah,
you
no,
work in
I
the
get,
same
like, obviously, yeah, you are going to introduce yourself.
So, but in the introduction, in 50 words, can we really introduce ourselves properly to this guy?
Okay, but you just. Okay, maybe use 70 words, but I definitely wouldn't use like 100 words to introduce yourself.
Okay.
Do you understand? It's just, the point is like, however many words you want to use that, but what I'm demonstrating here is not so much how many words we need, but my first thought when I looked at this was, okay, how do I need to structure it so that I know that I do not go over the word count? Okay?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah?
Yes, it's just, for me, I was thinking in terms of if there's not a good introduction, then all that context that you would have in that introduction, it wouldn't be, the rest of your points wouldn't really make sense. Because imagine
I agree with you, because your introduction is almost like your most important part, right?
Yeah. So I didn't really.
Yeah?
I suppose I didn't really get you were also talking about that, but that's probably something that's going to happen later.
So the thing is, so what I do here, I just want to break this down, make sure that we have everything that we're talking about, okay? So we've got, it would be better if everyone in the world spoke the same language. Okay. Now, someone said we're going to have a catchy subject line, okay? My favorite way to start is to start anything, to send any email that I need people to actually pay attention to is to put urgent in all caps. But I mean, not everything is urgent. So I just love doing that. It always gets people to respond to me because we are inundated with emails. I mean, I signed up to an email list and I was getting 25 emails a day. And it went for like 3 weeks and I got like anxious about opening my emails. So eventually I like unfollowed, but like I really wanted to know what they were saying. It's just like too much. So we are inundated with emails. And so we need to make sure that with this subject, we are doing something that is going to make us, firstly, not sound like an advert. But secondly, make it clear what our intentions are. Okay. So are we going to, what can I have some ideas on what we can say as our introduction? not as our introduction, as our, I love that, urgent debt collector. What can we say as our subject line?
Opinionated opinion.
Opinionated opinion. The thing is, I would say, Chosen Undead, you do need a strong conclusion, because you, especially in a letter like this, you don't just want to catch their attention. You also want to, you also want to get them to take action. And so you need to make it clear what this action is that you are expecting them. Okay. I just want to check that I've got all chats, not just best chats. Yeah?
I was thinking like from your biggest critic. Or from your
Okay, you can say from your biggest critic.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, because then he knows what you're talking about, and he's expecting you to be critical of his work.
Okay, what if we do something like the thing is, in reality, okay, so saying name, I disagree, more personalization since adds, okay, so obviously no more personalization since adds spam or no, spam with no personalization. So I get what you're saying. However, we need to remember the register that we're supposed to be writing in. Okay? We are trying to grab their attention, but we need to write in an appropriate register. So I would say something like, criticism of the idea that of one universal language. Okay. Yeah, that's why, I mean, exiting remarks, that's why I just thought a nice summation of what you've said as, which would be like 50 words, because 50 words isn't that much, it's not too much. What do you guys think of this subject? Like, this is personally how I would do it, because it gives a clear thing. Using the word criticism might make him stop, might make them stop, and so that is definitely something I think is worth looking at. I just need to check here that I...
Just honestly, off-topic question.
Yes.
Our words from, so when we say like from our email to their email and then our subject, does that count as the words in exams? Like,
I don't know. Probably not. Okay, so it's not. You need to understand that in your exams, we're not like counting your words. We don't have time. Okay, when we mark, we don't count your work. We say more or less, does this look like it achieves the word count? Have you been verbose? Have you been concise? So like, how have you how have
that-
you actually approached this task? So just on that note of word count, you need to go into the exam knowing more or less what the average words are that fit onto one line with your specific handwriting. And you need to know how many, if you write a page, more or less how many words is that? If you write a quarter of a page, how many words is that? If you write a third of a page, how many words is that? So that you can have an understanding of how far you are without having to count your words the whole. You don't have time to count your words. Okay. This one language, my opinion will change your mind. Now that sounds like an advert. That I would not open that. I can literally show you emails that I've received from email marketers using pretty much the same language.
Sounds kind of like someone sent you junk mail.
Yeah, it would very much feel like junk mail. I've got this one email marketer that, like, I don't know, I don't ever read his emails. I just love reading his headlines. I mean, I love analyzing his language. He's really good at marketing. I mean, he built his company really fast, and he uses things like, Marinus, you insulted my wife. And it's quite ridiculous sometimes, and that would be like his subject line. So yes, I think subjects that aren't to the point may be ignored. So tell them what your point is. So criticism, so this is how I would personally do it. And be careful, this is quite a challenging one to make sure that your subject is correct. Now, I just want to say, though, that you see how much time I'm spending on the subject? I don't want you spending that much time, but I need you to understand that it's very important. And when you're doing your reflective commentary, you're going to mention how important the subject line is in achieving the task. Okay? So we've got criticism of the idea of one universal language. Now, before we get into it, I want you to just talk about, just tell me quickly, what is the purpose of a letter to the editor?
Constructive criticism. Broadening his horizons.
Anyone else have anything to say?
Because realistically, the guy who we're responding to is he likes having his opinion challenged so that he can discuss more with you. It's going to be a back and forth over email.
Okay, anyone else? Anyone else? I'm just waiting for some more responses. Okay, tell me quickly, who is anyone else going to read is anyone else going to read the letter?
The letter or the email?
I mean the email.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got
Sorry, the stream's loading up quick. It's at I think it's 1:44p. It's absolutely unreadable. Hold on, let me change quality real quick.
Okay. Wait, what I can do here, sorry. You're on Discord, so I can just do that. There, actually, it must be on Discord. Okay. So, now letters to the editor are written to the editor, but many of them actually get posted in the newspaper. You know that? Anyone knew that?
To be quite honest, yeah, I didn't.
So usually in a newspaper, I know, like I don't know, I've never in my adult life bought a newspaper. I've sometimes read like the local newspaper, but mostly just looked at the advert section, see what's on special. And I read about some community project, like I was following a community project that they were doing a while ago. But a letter to the editor often does get posted in the newspaper. A few years ago, okay, when I was a teenager, my mom had, so we would go put flowers on my grand's grave, and then there was a lady at the graveyard who used to take the flowers after you put them down, and she was like the person who maintained the graveyard, and she would take the flowers and go put them on her relatives' graves. Okay? So my mom wrote a letter to the editor of our local newspaper, and the editor posted it in the newspaper, and it caused quite a stir. This woman was phoning everyone that might be related to my mom and trying to like get hold of my mom to attack her and stuff. So it was quite a lot. I mean, imagine that drama. But the point is that it is actually a thing where your letter might be posted in the news. You need to be aware of that. Okay. So criticism of the idea of one universal language. Now, how are we going to start this? So I just want you to be aware that your primary audience is the editor. Your secondary audience
Would be yourself.
No, why yourself?
Well, because you're also looking at it, so you want it to be legible to yourself. No, I'm just kidding. That's
Okay.
a bit of a joke.
The secondary audience might be maybe the community as a whole. Also, yeah, okay. Now we also need to understand that the editor is unlikely to actually have written this article. Okay? You see how I'm thinking about all these things? You need to be thinking through what you're doing. So many of you get to an exam and then you just forget that, like, thinking exists. Am I right? Does anyone relate?
Well, it's different conditions.
Yes, it is different conditions. I do really well in exams, but getting me to pitch up for an exam is really hard. I have bunked so many exams in my life because I have such bad anxiety. And then like I get a migraine just before my exam, and then I'm like, well, I can't write, so I'm going to fail this exam if I might as well not write. So yeah, well, that's just to do with my ADHD. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say, dear someone. What are we going to say? Anyone have any ideas? What are we? Going to do here?
Well, we can make up their name because realistically, their name is going to be in the newspaper article.
Okay. Now, also, we need to be aware of the fact that we might not know their specific email address. This is just something I thought of. Yes, please can you leave my room? Mathan, I'm in the lesson. Okay, so I can say something like the editor, just to say, I might, because it's attention, the editor, and then I'm going to say what newspaper it is. I'm going to maybe go with the New York Times. Although I'm quite unimpressed with the New York Times. I used to be such a fan of the New York Times. They started being, well, they just made it clear that they were quite problematic. And then I'm going to say the New York Times. Should I put a city? Yeah, I think I should just put a city. Let's just say New York. Okay. So this gives it a clear who it's for, and then it might be forwarded on to that person, because actually getting the email address of the editor themselves might be difficult. Okay. Now here is a bit of an archaic convention. Okay. Yeah, I'm not totally sure how I feel about this, but many would say that you start with Sir. Okay? You could also start with Dear Sir, because Sir is believed to be the standard. Then you could also say Sir or Madam. Okay, so we might want to remove the dear, because dear is not quite formal enough necessarily. So yes, it's quite a typical thing to remove that dear. Okay? Now, obviously, in a world where we have people of different gender expressions, there is more than just sir or madam. But we're going to leave our politics at the door, because honestly, I don't know how to deal with this. And you guys know how I feel about all of this. So, I am very much for inclusion, but I don't know what the correct alternative is. So we're just going to go with what is there, and we're just going to choose something. So I would say that this one is the least best. Oh my gosh. This one is probably the weakest option. I'm going to make it orange for weak. We'll say that orange things are. Step on an orange, it will splat. Okay. Do we get that? Any questions on that?
So we start off, right? We just start off with Dear Sir.
Yeah. Let's start off with Dear Sir. Obviously, if you're saying Dear Sir, you continue with male pronouns or whatever. But because you're speaking directly to the person, you are going to be saying you instead of using a third person pronouns like he or him. So you're not really going to be addressing gender anywhere else their gender anywhere else. Okay? Then you don't leave a line, okay? And then you start writing. Now, on this note, do you need to leave a comma?
Yes.
Not necessarily. You can leave a comma, or you can take the comma away. it has developed in the last 30 or so years that you don't need the comma. Benji, what are you doing? Okay, if you come into my room, you're going to stay. This cat has the zoomies today. Okay, so we're all good. So dear sir or madam, now why do we not need to put the date? Should we put the date? Do we need to put the date?
I wouldn't say so.
No, it's already given to us. Like when people see when the email was sent, it's already there. Okay.
I mean, it is possible because it's basically a formal email or letter that the date does probably matter for extra marks. But that
Well,
could just be me.
the date is already there because the date is in a normal email. Let me quickly open an email and show you. So here is this email. This was his title. I love it. Okay, so here is our date. Our date is in every email. Okay. So I've got all the information here. Hey Marinas, you see it's more casual style. He doesn't really make use of paragraphs much. He just like goes next line, next line, next line, which is actually a very effective way to advertise. I found that when I started doing that with my own adverts, my adverts started doing much better because people don't want to read paragraphs. They hate paragraphs. Okay, so we've got that. Next line, okay? So I'm going to go with a sir or madam. It's the most appropriate I can find. Now, we're going to tell them who we are. So, who are we? And the context of the letter. I'll just put this on a new line. I'll say, who am I? You're going to use first person address, right? And you're going to speak in first person and you're going to address them in second person. Now, many people will say, when you're doing your analysis, I have seen people, not many, I have seen a couple of students, instead of saying something like second person pronouns are used, they say it is written in second person. Okay? However, a letter like this would be written in first person with a second person address. Okay? I don't know if any of you ever read Goosebumps as a child, but it's the most popular one I've seen that people know about, but like they have like a choose your own adventure thing, and it says, okay, you walk down the road and then you find a door and stuff like that. Okay, so you say you think editor is the best person, the best thing. Yeah, I mean, you can say editor. It's just, this is... this is the normal convention of this type of text. And I'm all about conventions. You know how I'm all about conventions. There is a specific way that you're supposed to address people. There is a specific way that you're... Why did I even spell it like that? Mad damn. I didn't even notice that. Cool. Okay, so we look at who am I. Next up, we look at. Oh, so I was saying, this is a general convention. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But this is generally the convention that I know. So I say, who am I? And then I continue, as you said here, that I'm exploring this idea. So after I've told them who I am, I'm going to be clear about what is going on. So the context for my writing. I need to give reasons to support my opinion. So I need to decide, am I going to have like an emotional response, or is it going to be more logical? And since I need to give reasons to support my opinion, I'm going to maybe be a little bit more factual and logical. However, I can add a bit of emotion. So this requires creativity, and many students think that this question does not require creativity, but it does. You are supposed to be creative. So I'm going to say, context of my writing, after reading your article entitled globalization. Means that one language. Globalization means that we could even go further and say it has to be adopted and enforced. Oh my gosh, I love this. Considering the article from the New York Times, I love this. So globalization means that one language for all has to be adopted and enforced. So after reading your article, I was appalled by the bigoted thinking that seems to be prevalent in your publication. So here I have taken a stance. So I've taken a stance and I have decided, okay, now this is how I'm going to approach this. So I am being quite critical, and this is very criticism.
That's great wording, sir. You're very criticism.
Ever thought of a video letter and an email covering these points? What do you mean?
No, I'm saying, like, when you say you're very criticism, I was like, great English, sir.
Oh, did I say my very criticism? Great. I was very criticism, yes, I was very critical here. And I mean, it's relating to my subject. Okay, So I'm going to provide the context from which I'm writing, okay? And then I'm going to outline my argument, okay? So personally, let's see, I'm not giving you the exact words here, but I just want to come up with my points quickly. So I'm going to say my points are going to be like something about it's rooted in Americanism. Pardon?
Americanism.
Centric ideology.
Yeah, Americanism.
Liberalism.
Very liberal.
No. This is definitely not liberalism. This is what even is this? This is
imperialism.
Like. Pardon? Yes, imperialism. Thank you.
Here we go. That's the perfect word for it. Thank you.
Reawakening of imperialist ideologies. And then I could even, so I said I was going to do 3 paragraphs. So I could say it's a reawakening of imperialist ideologies. And then I can talk about how it is concerning due. I mean, that is one way that I could do it, but I want to develop my argument. So instead of creating a whole new point, I want to connect the idea of the Russian-Ukraine war, which is also imperialist.
Well, I would argue that it's well. I know this isn't in the text, but in terms of argument's sake, I would say it's more a reason for governments to increase predatory surveillance. Like it allows governments more predatory surveillance of citizens.
Why?
Because people are willing to give away certain rights in desperate times. Like look at 9/11.
Yeah, but I mean, how is that related to the question? That's where we're going off track, because we're talking about the one universal language.
I don't know. I thought that's why I suppose the better way to say it is that I see what you mean. Why we shouldn't go down the we're repeating history part, because we'll go away from criticizing the editor and going on our own little tangent.
Yeah. So I'm saying that I'm mentioning the Russian-Ukraine war because it is relevant, and especially New York Times editor is going to be interacting with this type of stuff. It is relevant to the audience. So it's concerning due to the existence of the Russian-Ukraine war, which is also imperialist, and removing diversity is problematic. I'm going to actually talk about how it is problematic. I'm not just going to say this is problematic. But do you guys see what I mean?
I mean, can I try and understand why it's? Can I try and explain why it's problematic?
Yeah.
Because language is important to us because different languages are important to us because there's so much noise. Sorry. Never mind. I won't be able to answer now.
Yeah. So those who are doing your A levels instead of just your AS, you'd have quite a good understanding of English as a world language, or even just the idea. You might have studied the idea of universal languages and the importance of, well, at least with my students, I study the importance of having not just one language, but celebrating diversity, because language and culture are intricately linked. So that's actually, I might actually, instead of this point, I might talk about the link between language and culture.
Well, I would say, I think it actually has to do with my point, but
Yeah.
Speaking in a different language allows you to see things from a different point of view.
Yeah. I mean, different languages have different perspectives, completely different perspectives on things. I mean, I can speak, I can understand Dutch. I can understand a bit of German. I can speak Afrikaans. I can speak English. I can speak a moderate amount of Setswana. And each of those languages contains something very unique. And so, yeah, that is a very good point. And so have something insightful, but don't spend your whole essay trying to think of points. All your time trying to think of points. Okay.
Yeah.
So have an outline of an argument. Say something valid, please. Like, say something useful. You're not going to build your whole argument in your introduction, and then you're going to, in your first paragraph, I will say this, P1, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to make sure, because it tells me that I need to give reasons to support my. Okay,
Well,
so I need to give reasons.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah?
When writing about these things in our AS exam, is there ever a point where like saying something a bit controversial, like saying American-centric ideology? Will we not? Is there not a chance that we get deducted marks for criticizing? Because it's very controversial.
You're not going to get criticized for being controversial. Please don't be like racist in your exam, but or just in general, don't be racist. But like, you're not going to get criticized for being controversial.
No, I mean, like, if you lose marks for being a bit controversial.
I mean, you're not going to get it. You're not going to lose marks for being controversial. They are asking you to state your. They're asking you to disagree with this whole thing of everyone in the world speaking. And since they're asking you to address that issue, you are going to have to face up to some realities of politics. And when I say politics, I'm not meaning this political party versus that political. You all know that. I mean
international politics.
And no, but also, like, I mean politics as in gay rights. Should gay people have rights? That's a political issue. Should women have equal pay? That's a political issue. All these things. Should children be spanked? That's a political issue. Should homeschooling be allowed? That's a political issue. Pardon? Okay, now, in order to structure this, I would suggest you put this in PEE format. Well, I'm gonna say PL. Anyone who doesn't know what that is, you can go Google it. It's like all over the internet. Okay. And then you're going to provide your conclusion. And your goal, I would say, was to change the editor's mind. Okay, that would be my goal. That is my goal here.
So would you end off your point by saying like, that's all I have to say, just food for thought? Or would you
No,
say
don't do that. That messes up your register. Okay. Just say something like, okay, nobody talk, I'm just gonna voice type here quickly. Oh my gosh, why can I? I'm just gonna voice type. So for your conclusion, you're going to say something like, I hope that I was able to enlighten you about why the initial article was problematic, and I hope that you take it into consideration in future publications. Biased articles that do not consider all elements of humanity can be quite damaging, and since news publications have so much influence, you need to understand your responsibility. So that was just an idea of how you do it. I don't know if I would exactly do it like that, but that is an idea.
That sounds like my mom lecturing me.
Okay, but it's very much like the reason that a news publication shouldn't do stuff like that is because they have a responsibility. A journalist has the responsibility to tell the truth. And that is why they do what they do. That is often what makes them tick. You understand?
I mean, I suppose, but what about opinionated journalism? Like journalism that covers people's opinion. This could be an opinion piece.
Yes, that is very true. However, is this an opinion that could... So I believe in free speech, okay? I also believe... Okay, I'm not going to get into that. I believe in free speech. I also believe that there are times where our speech is hurtful, well, not hurtful, but harmful to other people. Okay? So, sure, have free speech, but your free speech cannot take away from
other people's free speech.
From other people's rights. Okay? So if your free speech says that I should be burned or I should be killed, then that is not free speech but hate speech. And so it is actually a very big debate going on at the moment, especially even in South Africa. Last week we had AfriForum go to the Supreme Court about whether the old South African flag should be allowed to be displayed, and whether it is hate speech, and it was decided again that it is hate speech, and you may not display it. And so that is actually a conversation happening in South Africa at the moment. And so, yeah, I don't need you to go in depth. Like, honestly, it's about your writing. It is about, have you achieved your purpose? Okay? And so, in my reflective commentary, what is my goal of my reflection? Can anyone tell me what my goal of my reflection is?
Your question 1B, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going in depth on your opinions and why you chose those specific opinions.
No. Try again.
What language you use to get your opinions across.
So we're looking at how our linguistic choices contribute to fulfilling the task set. So how did we use language, form, and structure? So we've been studying language, form, and structure. How did we use language, form, and structure to create this, to achieve this purpose? So how did we use language to speak specifically to the editor of a newspaper? So we use the correct register. We use these specific words. We know that the editor is quite busy. And so we made sure that we gave a good subject line that was clear. We gave a concise introductory paragraph. Within our body paragraphs, we clearly structured them in a PL format so that they were easy to follow and the editor didn't have to reread what I was writing. Do you know what one of the biggest indications is for me when you have not structured your work? Like when I mark your work. The biggest indication is if I have to read it again. So, I have ADHD. I often have to read things again, and I mean, that's normal, okay? I go through times where I struggle to read anything. I just can't read. And I mean, what a funny, like, I'm an English teacher. I need to be able to read things, right? So, if you look at my add-ons on my browser, I have a lot of like speech to text things. So what I will do is I'll do speech to text and I'll have it and I'll read with it. But I'm not talking about those times, and I know I have mentioned those times. I'm talking about like, make it easy to follow. Honestly. Don't waste my time. Don't waste the editor's time. That's like, don't make me read it again. Just make it clear. Make it clear what you're saying. Okay? So, when I read an email, I'm a busy person. You all know that. So I want you to be clear, get to the point, tell me what you want to say. Are you done? Okay, great. So you've got 400 words. You need to focus on concision. 3 points might be a little bit much. You might only be able to talk about 2 points. 150 for each point. That might be a little bit more reasonable because 100 words might not get you through the whole PL. So I'm going to say here, might only manage 2. So then you can say here in your reflection that you only used 2 points to back up your facts. You were required by the question to give reasons to support your opinion, and the reason you only used 2 reasons was because you chose your most important reasons because you had limited space to do the work, but also because you understand the context of the question, and the context of the question is asking you to interact with an editor who is probably quite busy, and so is not going to read an in-depth analysis. They just want the criticisms. They want to read that criticism. They have to read those criticisms, and So yes. And then at the end, I'm going to talk about how I structured my conclusion, why I structured my conclusion in that way. And I did that because I had a specific purpose in mind in writing. And so you are analyzing, like Tate Select said, and you're analyzing your language and why it and what effect it made, and why it made an effect, or why it had an effect. So you are analyzing all of this, but you're pointing out to me how this all relates. How long should your reflection be? There's no like hard and fast rule of how long it should be, but it should definitely be a little bit more than like half a page. I've never seen someone do well on this question where they've only written like half a page. It was like big handwriting, like that someone gave me yesterday to mark, and it was half a page, and I was like, come on. Actually put effort into this. It's for 10 marks. It is literally 20% of your exam time, of your exam. So since it's 20% of your exam, you've got 2 hours, so 20% of 2 hours. 10% of an hour is 6 minutes. So, okay, you've got 12 minutes around. Yeah. Maybe 15 minutes, I don't know. So, yeah, but I do think so. I do think you definitely set yourself up for success in 1B. I often see that people do their 1A and then they fail at doing their 1A and then they get 1B wrong. And also, like, I just refer to yourself as I. Like, talking about yourself as the writer when you're doing your reflection is like really weird for me. And like, I even had a student like who kept changing their pronouns. So the writer, and then it was he, she. Wasn't quite sure what the pronouns were of the writer, and it was like weird. So yeah, set yourself up for success. Make sure that the decisions you're making in your 1A are contributing to question B. Talk about how each thing is relevant, how you've achieved the requirements of the task by your use of register, and maybe lexical field, something like that, whatever the task might be. Okay. Do we have any other questions on that? Something else I just want to say on this note. When I was at school, I did art. And in art, we had to create, so we had like this whole planning stage. And in our planning, we had to write down everything we wanted to do. We had to write down all our thoughts, okay? And then we had to do the artwork, and then we had to write a reflection where we evaluated the artwork and we see, okay, now, in what ways did the artwork achieve our initial purpose? And in what ways did we change our minds while we were doing the artwork? And how does this still add to our purpose? And now many people did not do well in this section, but I got really good marks when I finished school because I was really good at this part, because I'm really good at saying, okay, well, something is on purpose, even though it's not necessarily on purpose. And so I'm able to find reasons for doing things. So all you're doing is you're looking at your task and you're looking at what you've written and you're like, okay, but why did I do this? And then come up with a reason why you did it, even if you didn't mean to do it that way. Okay, just look at what effect it had. Does that make sense? I lose everyone on Discord. Okay. Just check where everyone is. Okay. Then we've got question 2, question 3, and question 4. So question 2, in class, you have been discussing the advantages and disadvantages of several generations of a family living together in the same house. Your teacher has asked you to write an essay on the topic. Write between 600 and 900 words. What type of essay is this going to be? Anyone tell me, is it going to be an argumentative essay? Is it going to be a reflective essay? Discursive essay? What are we going to do? What type of essay is it? Okay, it's a comparative essay. Let's just see if okay, I suppose in a way, because we are comparing the advantages and disadvantages, but not quite comparative. Because a comparative essay is more about comparing two different topics or something like that. We are looking at the advantages and disadvantages of like the one topic. So I think it would be a discursive topic, a discursive essay probably. I think that would be. Pardon?
I would call it an inception essay. Because you're talking about
an inception essay. Is that even a thing?
Probably not, but I mean, you're talking about what you learned in class on an exam, writing an exam. So I would call it an inception essay.
Are you saying inception?
Yeah, like the movie. I'm saying inception.
Gosh, okay. No, I don't think that I don't think that's a thing. See. Okay. But yeah, I would say it's a discursive essay because we're discussing the two types. Now, what are the conventions of a discursive essay? How are we going to do it? How are we going to discuss something? We're going to look at both sides, but we are also going to have a bit of our own opinion. We're going to, near the end, say, okay, this is our actual perspective. This is where we're actually at. It is not going to be a personal essay. It's not going to be about how it makes you feel. Yes, it is not going to be too biased, but it is going to, you are going to probably lean in one way, and it's okay to lean in one way. Just be aware of the fact that you're leaning in one way. Also, it's very
having
important.
our own.
Yeah?
Excuse me.
Go for it.
It's having our own opinion, but respecting the opinions of others as well while during the discussion.
Yeah, but it's not so much, you're not really doing the discussion, but yeah, I mean, while you're writing, you're acknowledging both the disadvantages and the advantages. And I think it would definitely be a discursive essay. Now, some people take this to mean, Yes, you are providing with a balanced argument and supporting it with elements, with evidence. You are, your opinion isn't going to take the center stage of this article. I want you to look at both the advantages and the disadvantages. And then, like, when you talk about your stance, you're not going to talk about it as in, this is the one true way. You're going to talk about it as, this is what I feel is most, you're not going to use these exact words, but you're going to say, okay, well, this feels most right to you. This makes most sense to you. And this is just because of your context or whatever. So that's what you're going to do there. Now, how are you going to structure this? You're going to, the same way, it's great that we did this piece here. Do you see how this was quite informative? It outlined the thing. I created some kind of outline. I made sure that I understood what was going to be in each paragraph. Decide what's going to be in each paragraph. You've got 900 words. Tell you, like, figure out how much do you usually put in a paragraph. Do you usually put 200 words in a paragraph? Then you're going to have 3 body paragraphs, an introduction, and a conclusion. That's what you're going to have space for in a 900-word essay. So 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah. Okay. So that's what you're going to do. And make sure that you are actually structuring your thoughts. Okay? In a discursive essay, you're looking at the advantages and disadvantages, so it's good to write them side by side. So, for instance, a multi-generational household. Okay? I would absolutely hate a multi-generational household. Like, I would not cope if my dad and my grandfather came to live here. Like, I would not cope. They would have opinions on my parenting and my work and what I should be doing with my free time and how I should be spending my money and what I should be cooking, what I should be doing all the time. They'd have all these opinions, and I don't want their opinions. I like doing my own thing. And so, personally, the idea seems awful to me. However, it would be really great. I mean, my sister lives in a multi-generational household, and she really benefits from the fact that everyone can contribute to the family finances. She benefits from the fact that she can go out and there's someone taking care of her daughter. She has the benefit of when she's just had enough of, like, parenting for a bit, she can have some space. And that's great. So once you've chosen which side you're on, should I elaborate on your reasoning and link it towards the content you've given earlier or your essay, or could you just choose which side you're on as a conclusion? I think just as a conclusion would be great. You could do the other option that you're mentioning here, but I think that could end up not being perfect. You might come across some problems. And your view might be a little bit one-sided. So you do need to be careful of that. And then I think, so in terms of that, I think you definitely need to have some kind of balance. And you can talk about the fact that so here's a structure. So I can talk about how having people in my house, everyone's wanting to get involved in my parenting and everything like that. However, it does mean that I have more support. Okay? And even though it might get frustrating to have them support you when you don't want the support, when you do want the support, it is freely available. So in a conclusion, what you should look at in a conclusion is basically summing up what you've said. So in your introduction, you're going to basically state what you're going to say. You're not going to say, in this essay, I will say this. You're just going to say, like, you can say that. And I mean, I just don't like it personally. I don't enjoy essays that are like that. But that might just be a matter of personal preference. It very much reminds me of of essays written by school children instead of essays written by people who generally know how to write essays. So yes, you link it back to your paragraphs. You link it back to this point, this point, this point, and then you basically create like an overall conclusion. Okay, and remember your paragraph. You're going to put your points. Your main point of your paragraph. What is your paragraph about? We call that our topic sentence. So you're going to have your topic sentence. Then you're going to have your evidence. Then you're going to explain it, and then you're going to link it back to your thesis statement. Your thesis statement is the main statement that holds together your whole essay. Okay, I like to put my thesis statement in my first or second sentence. Sometimes, depending on the context, I might use my first sentence as a hook and my second sentence as my thesis statement, but sometimes I just make my thesis statement my hook. Okay. Now, you have just read a copy of a new magazine. Okay, wait, are there any more questions on that? I'm just reading. Students have messaged me. Okay. So, no one has any questions. So, so do you use Peel on each paragraph or on the whole text, if that makes sense? It does make sense. I get what you mean. You use it on, I suppose, both. No, okay, so you're going to use it on each paragraph, but you are going to link everything back to your initial thesis statement. And I mean, your points that you are making are the evidence and the explanation for your thesis statement, but each paragraph is going to be peeled. Okay. I mean, that is a good structure. It is, it's really just going to help you. Then you have just read a copy of a new magazine about fashion. Write a review of the magazine, which will be published on a fashion website. Write between 600 and 900 words. I love this. Okay. So, if you are looking at this magazine, you need to talk about what are the things that we expect from a magazine. So, let's first talk about this. What do we do in a review? What is a review about? A review is about telling people whether they should or shouldn't, like, buy the magazine, whether it's worth buying. So you might want to mention how much it costs. You might want to mention whether they had good opinions on fashion. you might want to look at the cover design, the quality of the articles, whether you were inundated with adverts. Was there too much advertising? Was it clear what type of magazine it was? So you're going to look for different elements of this magazine. So in order to do this, you need to really imagine a magazine. You need to have a clear idea in your head of everything that this magazine was. And you're going to make it up. Honestly, just make it up. Be entertaining. Okay. And obviously your role is not to entertain. That's not your goal here. The goal of a review is not to entertain, but just please be interesting. You need to have a review. If you read a review, people still need to know whether the review is worth listening to. Does that make sense? I don't know how far behind the screen is.
I'd say it's like a quarter of a second behind, or at least half a second. It's not by much.
Okay. So you're going to just make sure that you are keeping all those things in mind, and you need to make sure that you need to make sure that you're keeping your audience in mind. You need to make sure that you're keeping the purpose in mind. What are you writing about? Why are you writing it? You are analyzing the magazine, but you're not analyzing the language of the magazine, the language, form, and structure. A review is about what you thought about it. So you are saying, would you buy this magazine again? Did you think it was worth spending your time reading the magazine? How long did it take you to read the magazine? Are there a lot of interesting articles? What was your favorite part of the magazine? What was your least favorite part of the magazine? So you can decide just how personal you want to make this. We're going to check, which will be published on a fashion website. Okay, it's on a fashion website, so you're probably not going to make it too personal. You're going to make it very focused on fashion. Okay, sorry, I missed that part. So you're going to make it very focused on fashion. How have they approached fashion? Have they tried to say that Uggs are in? Okay, if they have said that Uggs are in, yo, wow, okay. So, yeah, you're basically outlining the aspects and giving your opinion on it. Whether you think it was good or bad. So you might want to write subheadings. Subheadings might be good for this type of thing. So if I am reviewing software, for instance, because that's probably something I would review in real life. If I'm reviewing software, I'm going to review ease of use. I'm going to review the user interface. I'm going to review the strain it puts on my computer. I'm going to review, I'm going to mention if there are any bugs or glitches. I'm going to review support. So then I might have a heading for each of those, or I might have, I might group some of those ideas. So we need to just keep that in mind. Then, does anyone else have any questions on that? On the review?
No, I'm all caught up, thank you, sir.
Okay. And then question 4 Write a descriptive piece called Rooftops about the view of a town from the top of a tall building. In your writing, focus on the sights and sounds to help your reader imagine the scene. Write between 600 and 900 words. Please focus on sights and sounds. Okay? And you need to, when you're talking about rooftops, okay, the piece is entitled Rooftops. So since it's entitled Rooftops, you need to actually talk about some rooftops. You're looking at the view of the town from the top of a tall building. And you're going to describe different types of rooftops. You can either talk about how the neighborhood has been gentrified. I think that's the term. The neighborhood has been gentrified and all the rooftops look exactly the same. And I would find this one maybe a little bit more difficult to do. Or you can talk about the different types of rooftops. And so you might talk about one type of rooftop that you see in the distance in the more upmarket area. And next you see large spaces around the houses with big swimming pools as well. And they're all gray or whatever color you want to choose. And then I would probably talk about a site, like one type of, this is a structure, a proposed structure. I would talk about, this might be an idea. So I would talk about a site and maybe talk about an upmarket area, okay? And then from the upmarket area, I will talk about the sound of the more downtown type of area or inner city type of area. Or what do you call it? The area where the working class live. So I might talk about the sounds coming from that area. I might start off with talking about the sound of the wind in the beginning, and then lead into looking at the rooftops. The rooftops of I live in Joburg, so if I'm standing on a rooftop, a high rooftop, I might be looking at the houses in, what would I see from? I might be looking at the rooftops from the rooftops in Melville and the trees. Then I would talk about the sound of police sirens, and then that draws my attention to the other side where I look at Alexandra, which is a township, and the sights of the roofs there. And then I might be distracted by the sound of an office party, okay? Or maybe just a party scene, and talk about that and the rooftops there. Then I might be distracted and look at, I might hear a school bell and write something about how I'm hearing this school bell and I'm hearing these school children run out of school and what it sounds like and what I'm hearing. And then I might describe the roof of this building, the way that the building makes an L shape, something like that. And I'm not just focused on the very basics of it looks like this, it looks like that, but I'm using figurative language. I'm using some interesting vocab. I'm using some complex sentence structures. My writing is engaging. My writing is taking you through a process. You are feeling like you are living in the moment with me as we look out over the city. Does that make sense? Anyone? Yeah. If
That makes sense to me. Yes, sir.
if you have any questions on that, do ask. Could you describe the view of a town from the top of a tall building from a movie, or perhaps a book you've read, or must it be? That's perfect. Do it from a movie or a book you've read, as long as you are not like taking the words from the book. But yeah, sure, use that as an inspiration. I know that I struggle to imagine things, so I can't imagine like a totally imaginary world. I have to use my own context, and I have specifically looked out over Joburg and looked at the different rooftops. So I'm drawing from my experience, not from like an idea in my head of what I think it would be like. I know Joburg very well. I know the city. I love the city. And
for other people, it could be different. Some people have a greater imagination, so they can describe the feeling of being on the roof quite well. And then there are others, such as me. I've been on the Vodacom Tower in Joburg as well. It was an amazing view up there, but if I were to be in a situation where I had to describe something that I've never experienced before, then yes, I have to use my imagination.
Yeah. So I do struggle with my imagination sometimes, but I'm also really good at making stuff up, as I have told you. So yes. Okay. I hope you all understood everything. I'm going to put my email address in the chat again. For if you have any questions. Okay, so if you have any questions, if you need help with anything, do just ask, okay?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Otherwise, if you really do need to get hold of me, you can also, and like I'm not responding to the WhatsApp, you can also message me on Facebook. Not message me on Facebook, but on Facebook you will find my my WhatsApp number. I just don't totally feel safe putting it on YouTube specifically.
Okay, but for those of us who don't have Facebook, is it okay if we message on Discord as well?
Oh, Discord is good as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Cool. I will see you. Well, I don't think I'm going to be having another live stream this week. My other lessons this week are going to be just normal lessons. Okay.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Bye.
See you in next streams.
Well, I'll have. When are you writing? Are you writing in this session?
No.
Okay. Well, I'll see you. I'll do future streams. Don't worry. I will do future.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the teaching.
Bye.